It's here in the centre of Lenton, Nottingham, that after almost 2 years of assessment, planning and construction, that this prominent landmark is finally ready to open to the public, to start its new phase of life in the heart of the community. This grand yet austere building was about to undergo the biggest project since its construction in 1841. This is the story of that journey, the challenges and successes that lead us to the building that we see before us today.
So when I came to Lenton to be the vicar, one of the things that struck me was how beautiful the building was, how lovely and reordered it was inside, and how it didn't seem to have any major building work needed, although we knew that there were a few problems with the roof and we were getting a survey done of that. But then about a year in, one Sunday morning, I looked up into the chancel and thought, I wonder whether that's dry rot.
We invested in getting some scaffold and a builder to go up and look at it, and it was confirmed it was dry rot. There was a really scary moment where we climbed this scaffold and we looked at the dry rot which was in front of us, which was an impressive thing. It was like a big mushroom on this beam. But then we turned round and we looked back along the nave of the church from this vantage point that we'd never quite had before, and suddenly you could see that truss upon truss going backwards was affected by the rot, and it was quite a frightening moment actually, because you really saw that actually this was a very serious problem, something that was going to be going to have to be addressed.
My feelings when we discovered this, I think personally, were a mix of, okay, I'm a problem solver, get on with it, but also a help, this is not where we're up to as a community. We're not a church that has lots of money, we're not a church that has lots of people who are good at and interested in building projects. So as a church and as the church council, we stopped and thought about it. We started getting advice on how big a project it might be. Thankfully, we didn't get any inkling how big a project it was, because if we did know that, I suspect we might have been put off starting. We prayed together about it, and then the PCC met straight after that, and we had a real sense that there was a purpose in this building. As a church, we would see this about God's mission, and that this building being there and open for the community, and at the heart of what we felt we were called to, which is sharing God's love with this community, that building was important to it. So we made the decision to go ahead and do the work.
When the job was started, I don't think we realised how big it was going to be. So we looked initially at a heritage lottery, and their ceiling for listed places of worship was £250,000, and we quite quickly realised that actually our work was going to need to be phased, because our first phase was likely to go over that sum of 250. We started to draw together this application. And I remember asking my home group to pray with me about the application, because I really didn't know what was supposed to go in. I didn't know any of the terminology. I was like, are we retiling the roof? Are we stripping the roof? What are we doing with the roof? When we got the call through that we were going to be successful, it was absolute elation knowing that we could get started on the project. But at that stage we didn't realise quite how big it was still going to be, or how much funding we were going to need from other people.
So part of the Heritage Lottery Fund application involves appointing an architect for the project, separate to the church architect. And so a key element in appointing that person, which was Carl Andrews, was looking for someone who was going to actually be able to provide us lots of support in the project management as well.
It's always exciting to be involved in projects like this. It's a wonderful church, it's fairly prominent, it's a bit of a landmark, isn't it? So it's something nice to be associated with. And the church team are a joy to work with. Internally, the extent of the decay was pretty extensive. Some of the trusses were almost completely lost at the ends. To be fair, it was so bad the structural engineer decided that the building shouldn't be used and the church had to be closed until we could actually initiate the repairs and make the building safe.
I think the low point was when I heard for certain that Holy Trinity was going to have to shut, which was before the main building works actually got going. I think I'd known in my heart, having seen the state of the trusses, that it was going to have to shut.
Getting people together to manage the project was a fair challenge to start with, but it did become clear that unfortunately no one was going to magically appear to sort this out for us. Thankfully, we have a couple of people in the church who do have experience of project management, so Alison and Mike stepped up to help. The next sort of layer of people we needed to engage was to actually talking to the wider community because we needed their support.
I mean, there has been definitely a lot of nervousness in getting started on this project. It's quite a scary thing for an amateur to take on. But then when the scaffolding finally appeared, it was quite an exciting moment.
Initially, the scaffold was erected to provide access and coverage to the roof of the nave. At the same time, an internal scaffold was put in place to allow assessment and repair to the timberwork. In the foundations, additional bracing was required to take the weight of the internal scaffold. The damage to the timberwork was assessed and plans were drawn up. In August of 2015, the nave roof was stripped of its slates. This reduced the weight of the roof, allowing the truss repairs to begin. Some trusses required minor repair and reinforcement, while some were completely replaced.
So this is T1 going in. Now got the main framework in for it, all the curved timber work and things. Now this is exactly as you see how it's going to be fitted when it is final fitting. Then you've got your profiles, which again is curved timber work, with your bevels and chamfers and things on. When they're all cut and done, then it's a case of putting them on, and then it's all finally fitted and finished off.
Each truss gets a finish of preserver and colour, matching the original shade of the roof timber to maintain its original appearance. Brickwork and plaster repairs are made. Another part of the process was to replace the ageing gutters and damaged stonework. A new gutter channel was carved out. And a bespoke replacement was formed of timber and lead. This should help keep the roof in good condition for another few hundred years. With the gutters complete, the roofers began to rebatten the roof, ready for the slates. The slates go on, a huge task in itself, taking labourers nearly a week for each side. By late October, most of the repair work on the nave was completed. It was now down to a team of volunteers, led by David Giles, to get the internal roof prepared, cleaned and painted.
We are paint scraping, trying to get ready to paint the ceiling.
The team moved on to paint the repaired areas as the brickwork and plastering was finished. The scaffold was altered both internally and externally to allow repairs to start on the north and south aisles. Only minor timberwork repairs were needed here, so the process of reslating and forming new gutters was much faster than before. Early in 2016, work started on the chancel, vestry and organ chamber. A similar process to the nave and aisles. With the church's first wedding approaching, a huge clean-up operation began. Meanwhile, repairs continued on the outside of the church. The grounds were cleared as the scaffold came down. The big day arrived here for the happy couple, and their wedding day went ahead smoothly under the new roof. Moving into June, the final repairs went ahead on the chancel and its adjoining rooms. Most of the external scaffold was dismantled, and everyone was busy planning for the reopening of the 11th of June.
The size of the church and the project may appear daunting to people when they first get on site. However, we've taken the bull by the horns with it. We've had full support from the client and the architect parties, and it's been a great pleasure to work with them all the way through the project. We've had pitfalls, you're going to get that in construction, but we think that we've managed the whole process quite well. We've developed further works whilst we've been going along, and the finished product is something that not only are CEL proud of, but hopefully the church congregation and the client party and the architect as well will look back over the years and think, yeah, we did that.
It's going to be a absolutely amazing time for us, and for me, I feel actually a sense of fitting into the bigger picture of the history of the church and the history of Lenton.
It's a great milestone to have got to the point where we can reopen the building, and it's great to be able to celebrate that. But this is only the start of an ongoing journey, both in terms of the life that will go on here, the activity that will be developed here, but also it's opened our eyes to the possibilities that can be developed even further with the building to make it a real resource for the community and for the church family.
What we didn't know when we planned the opening date was that it was going to be 175 years to the day since the founding stone was laid for Holy Trinity. And for me, and I think for Megan too, and a lot of other people who heard that news, when this date that we'd essentially picked pretty much at random had such historical significance, it felt for us as though we were fitting into a much longer story.
So I'd just like to say a huge thank you for everyone who's been involved in the project, be that in a large way or a very small way, and make a particular thank you to Carl Andrews, our architect, who's walked through us throughout this project, and CEL Restoration, who have been a brilliant and flexible contractor to work with. Without everyone, professionals, church family, wider community, we wouldn't be having the celebration that we're having today.
We look forward to welcoming you here at Holy Trinity in Lenton, and we thank you for all of your support and patience over the last 2 years. This truly has become a building for the future.